Hi everyone, it's Shane.
Hi, this is Erin, and welcome to Everything EFL. How are you?
I am really good, and I would like to tell all of the listeners, if you can hear in the background, we are not recording beside my fridge.
No, that's not happening.
That is definitely not happening, and I can't even believe that you suggested that. We are recording beside really hungry people because we're about to make some dinner.
Okay, so anyway, what are we talking about today, Shane?
It's actually stopped humming. I might have accidentally unplugged the fridge when I plugged the microphone in. I don't know.
Good job, it's not a hot day. Let's crack on.
This is going to be an expensive podcast. So today we're talking about, we've given the title individual. subtly miming that. Oh, darn.
Was that subtle? Do you think they heard?
They did hear. You have to have flashcards to show up. Shut up, Shane. Disclaimer. Okay, welcome to Everything EFL. We did not invent the English language, but
Shocking.
we have been teaching it for quite a long time and we know our stuff. Credit will be given wherever possible for the ideas that we take from other sources.
Lovely. What are we talking about today, Shane?
Okay, so now I'm subconsciously thinking about all the food that's in that fridge.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's not a hot day.
Never a hot day. We're talking about individual versus group. That's the title that we've given it. So
cryptic.
And we're looking at the differences between individual and group classes. And if you have individual students, which you've never had before, I'm going to show you a couple of ways that you can make the class a lot easier.
Oh.
So that's the function. Here's my thinking on this, right, Sharon?
Okay.
Like, I've taught group classes and I've taught individual classes in classrooms and online. Whenever you need more money, when you start advertising on Facebook, on Instagram, on any platform to get more students because you need more money, you're generally going to get an individual student.
Yes.
And if you have only taught group classes, this is daunting.
Can be, and I would say vice versa. Like, yeah. I've done individual online, but the thought of doing a class terrifies me. One, I think because of the technology, and I think speaking to a lot of people, they haven't been trained very well either with the technology.
Yeah, that is a thing, where schools are just saying, here's a computer, off you go.
Yeah. Shame on you, schools.
Bad schools.
But it's because I haven't done it though. So I expect once you get into it, it will be much easier. But I think there are still quite a few issues there. But let me ask you, Shane, because you're a bit more of an expert than me, what would be the advantages of individual students first?
Well, the advantages are kind of the same online or in person, is that you get a stronger connection with the student. That might be a disadvantage depending on the student, but I like that, let's take something like small talk. Small talk is absolutely essential, not only academically or linguistically, it's essential culturally.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a 10-minute conversation with a woman at a bus stop about the color of paint on the pole.
You really can talk about anything, can't
you? I'm quite gifted in that way. But small talk is absolutely essential. If you're doing 5 or 10 minutes every class with one person, that is quite intense for a student. You start learning about their family, about their job, and you ask about their parents, about their children, and you kind of become a sort of counselor. Now, I know you're not a counselor, there is obviously a barrier there, but it can be a very good way for a student to sort of blow off steam or disconnect in a way, which is quite nice. So that I love about individual students, is that you make a connection. And if you're a good teacher, you see progress.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I think also it's a lot easier to do a needs analysis with an individual student than a class.
Yeah.
You can sit them down, see what their sort of issues are, and then you can create aims and actions to achieve those aims. Much easier than a class, I think.
Yeah, I think, and seeing progress is really motivating.
Very.
Where you're thinking I've taught you this, I've taught you these words, and I've made you more confident with English. That's lovely. That's a really nice thing.
Yeah, definitely.
The disadvantage,
Yes,
then,
I was just about to ask.
where I was going to go into, see, my brain naturally gravitates towards negativity anyway.
That's why you're such a joy to be around.
I'm such a joy. I imagine me at Christmas. The invitations are flowing. Okay, so the disadvantages are obvious. It takes a hell of a lot more prep. Okay. You have to do way more work. There's no compare with your partner for 5 minutes while I go outside and have a cigarette, which I've never done as a teacher. But there's none of that. There's none,
There's no break for you.
No.
There's no relief.
Group discussion, peer-to-peer feedback. There's none of that. So you have to plan this meticulously. It's a hell of a lot more work. Yeah. That's annoying.
Yeah, and just that all of that just contributes to being a lot more drained. You walk out of that lesson knackered.
Yes.
Absolutely knackered. But I can imagine that with groups, that feeling would be tenfold,
Yeah, it could be. I mean, especially if you don't like anyone in the group. That could be quite horrible. So if there's a student that you don't like, check out our... I'm making you laugh so much today. So let's talk about the disadvantages. If there's a personality type that you don't really gel with, listen, this is part of the job. Okay.
Yeah.
We're not on X Factor. So you can check out our podcast, episode 22 and episode 21, about various different student types. They're entertaining and they're funny.
If we do say so ourselves.
I laughed my ass off at my own joke. Seriously, it was so funny. But you can check them out about different student types and funny personalities. Let's talk about the planning, because that's what I want to discuss, is how can we reduce planning? That's the whole reason for this podcast, quite frankly, is that we are not paid for planning. So if anything that you listen to in any of our podcasts are entertaining and helpful, boom, we're done. We reduce planning time because you're not paid for it.
It's a tough one, because like a lot of the sort of the ready to go like photocopyable activities are focused on speaking with your partner or speaking groups or mingle or something like that.
Yeah.
So your activities have to be tailored towards you being the partner or just your student producing all the language. Go on, give us some advice.
Okay, so the first one is we talk about grammar. Now feel free to comment, to send a message if you disagree with me. I do not think it's appropriate in an individual class to be doing grammar exercises.
You mean like sort of fill the gaps or rewrite this sentence or something like that?
And the student does it by themselves for 5 or 10 minutes and the teacher is just sitting there. In an individual setting, I do not think that's appropriate. And I'll tell for multiple reasons, but the main one is I've been that student and I didn't think it was appropriate. I was paying €25 an hour for a teacher in Spain. And this teacher, oh my God, just slight tangent for a second. This teacher gave me a worksheet with different images of clothes, like jacket, shoe, whatever.
I know what clothes are, but thanks for the clarification.
Treating you like a student. But then slammed the biggest dictionary that I've ever seen in my life on the table and went, any word that you don't know, just look it up here. And I was like, someone is getting fired. What is the point of that? What on earth is the point of that? So I think giving grammar exercises that you would give in a classroom or you would give in a group, I personally don't think that's acceptable.
Okay.
And that's even worse because you have to do way more planning. Here's what I do is I do error correction sentences.
Okay.
They work really well. And there is a ton of online resources, which we can link to as well. So if you're a teacher, go on to Google ESL sentence correction. Boom, done.
Oh, and then they've just got all the different grammar.
Loads of different websites pop up with all different levels, etc. It's so easy. And just to clarify, if you're a new teacher or if you've never done this, it just gives you a sentence where the grammar is incorrect in the sentence and the student has to spot it. But this is an activity that you do together. The student is not taking a pen and paper and working on their own for 10 minutes while you paint your nails. The student is saying, okay, let's look at sentence 1. Okay, she used to going to the shop. Is this correct? Is this not correct?
So they're basically thinking out loud to you.
Thinking out loud. If they don't know, say the sentence to me. I'll say the sentence, you say the sentence. And you can also have a guided discovery. There's a problem with the verb. We need to make the verb smaller.
Yeah.
And then explain why it's, used to have. I am used to going. and you can start to explain the grammar.
So you mean like a test, teach, test approach?
Exactly.
Okay, good. But then after you've done the first test bit and then you go through the rules, what kind of controlled activity would you do then? Another correct the mistakes activity before you go on to the free speaking?
Yeah, I don't structure classes like that.
Okay.
I don't believe in doing it has to be this, and this. I don't always think that works. If I was doing an individual class, we've got to have 5 minutes of small talk. That can be quite painful if the student is really quiet. What did you do yesterday? Nothing. How are you? Fine. That can be a bit painful. But 5 minutes, if you're like me and you never shut up, that could go to 15 minutes. Who cares? Then I correct homework. This is my second point. Yeah. Always give a lot of writing homework.
Yep, that drags it out nicely. And it's all conversation. You're doing it together. You're guiding them towards the error. I'm assuming you're not going, this is the correction. I'm assuming you're going, okay, let's look at this. What's missing here?
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I have a really quiet student who is extremely grammar, mathematical orientated, I will give them writing. The longer the writing, the better. And we correct it together in the class. Yeah. Okay, we go through it. And again, guided discovery. Okay, this is really helpful for the student. It fosters critical thinking. It's helpful for you because you don't have to plan a lot. And it's helpful for everyone because it drags the class out.
Yes.
So rather than saying, okay, in the second line, the preposition to, take that out. Don't do that to a student. Just go, can you look at the second line? There's a word that I think is wrong.
Yeah, but hopefully if you're a good teacher, you wouldn't be doing that anyway.
I know.
We hope. We hope. Can I just rewind a little bit back to the grammar exercises?
No.
Thanks. So just I thought that might be a good idea as well if you are doing the correct the mistakes thing.
Yeah.
To drag it out even more. You could incorporate drilling and pronunciation practice into that as well. You could focus one day on sentence stress. You could focus another day on intonation. You could focus another day on connected speech. So you could drag that out even more. And incorporate some prawn in there because I really think that prawn definitely gets kind of sidestepped.
Sideline?
Sideline, thank you. Yes, okay. Yes.
Absolutely. And pronunciation, I didn't mention that earlier. That is an advantage of having an individual class. Is students don't like doing pronunciation because they sound stupid. When you're sort of making these sounds over and over again in a room full of people.
They feel stupid.
Yeah.
Not sound.
Sorry. That's what I meant. Like they.
Rude.
No, I meant they feel like they're stupid. When they feel embarrassed, and you can see people getting really uncomfortable, and generally it's the person who needs the most work in a group is the most uncomfortable doing it, and you feel very sorry for them.
So individually, it's definitely easier.
It's better because they don't care, and you can sort of do it with them.
You can have a laugh, you can have a giggle.
Yeah, and also I think we've discussed this in our pronunciation episode 2.
Plug.
Plug. But if you have an individual student who is really nervous about pronunciation and it's one-on-one, that can be very uncomfortable. Easy way to get around it is start pronouncing words in their language. Get them to teach you a really difficult word, and they'll generally roll around laughing because you'll do it so wrong. Cool. I still can't nail wine in Chinese. Po tao jiu.
Oh, Chinese is...
Mandarin Chinese.
I wouldn't even know where to begin because it's all tonal, isn't it?
Yeah, but see then if they're very embarrassed by pronouncing something, just whack out a sentence and they'll be like, oh my God, that teacher is terrible at pronunciation. It's like, see, we're the same.
Yeah, exactly.
So these would be some of my main tips. The grammar, the error correction, I think is the best way to do a grammar exercise in the 1 hour, let's say, lesson that you have together. By all means, add extra grammar activities for homework. The standard ones that you would do in the class, that's absolutely fine. Always throw in a writing activity for homework as well, because it helps with correction, it helps with speaking. And then really it's about guided discovery, which sort of elongates everything out a little bit more. Absolutely. But there's no way of avoiding prep for an individual lesson. It's going to take longer than it does for a group. That's simply reality. But those can mitigate that in a way.
Yeah. Any other disadvantages for individuals?
Any other disadvantages for the student?
Or for you, just for individual classes? I don't know. They are draining, but I do really enjoy them. I think there are more advantages, everything you've just said. You get to know the student. It can be very informal.
Yeah.
You can actually have a good giggle.
Yeah. I think one of the main things for teachers doing it is it changes the dynamic of how you prep for a lesson.
Yeah.
That there needs to be solid vocabulary. Another thing that you can start your class with as well, so we can have your small talk, your homework correction, and then a recap of the previous lesson that you've done. And the student should give you the recap. The student should recap words for you, should recap grammar, structures, should recap mistakes that they made in the previous writing. And then you're almost halfway through the lesson before you've introduced a new grammar point and before you've introduced new vocabulary. But I do think in terms of like controlled practice, free speaking, etc., I may not always in an individual class follow that formula.
No, fair enough. But yeah, back to your point, review is essential. Like my student yesterday, I had an individual class and we wrote down a few collocations with the word prescribe. So prescribe sleeping pills, prescribe painkillers, prescribe sleeping pills, something like that. And the first thing I'm going to ask her next week is name 3 things you can prescribe. Something really simple like that. Just a recap of some of the vocab and the language that we've looked at, plus the homework that she's done. She's doing some writing.
Yeah.
It drags it all out nicely.
It does.
It really does.
The final point I'd make on this is if you get a student like me who literally does not shut that up, you have to be careful that it doesn't derail the class with an individual, and that is hard. What I mean by that is I've had students who are so chatty, so excited, they talk about their life. We end up having a brilliant conversation and the hour is over. Now, it's been
Are they happy with that?
Well, there's a mixed feeling here. Are they happy with it? Yeah, because they like you. They got to talk for an hour. It was great.
They might not be in a position to have that much conversation.
Yeah.
With someone else in English, depending on where they are or what they're doing.
Yeah. So I've noticed a lot of the time, particularly websites like italki, that the student is so excited to speak English. You talk English for the hour. They didn't learn anything. Now, and you think, okay, look, it doesn't matter. We were just getting to know each other. It was just an informal thing. It's fine. That burns out eventually. That you have to take charge of the class at some point and impart either vocabulary or grammar or error correction or pronunciation. That has to be done within the hour. You cannot just talk to them. And even if they tell you that's what they want, if you want to have a long-term individual student, I've had individual students for more than 4 years online. And that is the trick, is that you cannot just talk to them. Even if they tell you that's what they want, even if you do that and you both seem happy with it, it will burn out. And that's just sort of a very good tip, if I do say so myself.
And would you like if I was in a normal classroom, I would always put my aims and objectives on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Would you at the beginning of the lesson with an individual student say, okay, today we're going to do A, B, and C, or do you just crack on with the lesson?
It sort of depends on the student. I normally don't do it unless I get a sense that they feel like they're not progressing, and then we kind of go through it. I would always recap at the end of the lesson to be like, this is what I've taught you today. Because as you become extremely familiar with a person, you can go off track or something. If they say like, I'm feeling really crap today, can we just talk?
Yeah.
You're not going to say, no, we have to do pronunciation. Like you'd say, okay, fine. Yeah. But I always do a recap.
Yeah. And I think it's also every sort of few weeks to kind of stop and look where you are and what progress you've made. So like I mentioned, like yesterday, I'm teaching a student. She's doing the OET exam, which is a exam for nurses, and we're looking at all the different exam parts, blah blah blah. But I went, okay, let's just, and this is a tip that I got from our good friend Christine. Hi, Christine. You establish certain aims. So, okay, what do you want to do with the reading exam? I want to improve part B. Okay, what are the actions for that? We're going to develop some strategies. I want to improve the listening. Okay, what action are we going to take for that? We are going to analyze the transcript. We're going to do blah, 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 so aims and actions. And it's so simple. And I was like, why didn't I think of this before? It is kind of needs analysis, but it's a continual needs analysis. You stop, you look, have we achieved those aims? Do we need to change the aims? But it's so simple, and it's a lot easier to do with an individual student, I think, than a group. But it was just such a simple idea, and I think it really, my student went away quite happy with the list of aims and actions that we produced.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing that.
That's what we want. Happy students.
Thanks, Christine. You're the best.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna wrap it up there. Before we go, we're gonna tell you that if you liked this, then you should share it and you should subscribe, which you can do on Google, on Apple, and on Spotify.
And please keep supporting us on Instagram. We're growing quite fast. It's all very exciting. Okay, well, thanks for listening, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.